Thank you so much for making it on our very first event. Um, as you have seen on the event registration link, uh, this event is going to be um, basically around um, the usual product lifecycle, all the way from um, PRDs throughout the design process and all the way to development. You can already see Ines. She's here with us on the call. So welcome everyone to the very first FOF event. Um, yeah, as I just said, we're basically going to go through the whole product lifecycle, all the way from PRDs all the way to dev. And starting with introduction, my name is Frank Guga from Rwanda. I'm a product designer, and I'm basically here today as the group leader. And then joining me is Ines. She's the head of design at BK, and she's going to be our speaker today. Moving on. So these are basically just simple housekeeping rules that we abide by at Figma. Obviously, you may have seen that this is recorded. You towards the end of this presentation, we're going to have a Q&A session. After going through the presentation that Ines has for us, you can always ping thoughts or insights via the chat. Always, let's just stay kind. So today's agenda is in regards to the main theme of this event. So Ines is going to take on and introduce herself, and then she's going to go through the use cases she prepared for us, the different examples. She's going to go through design systems and then how they interpret product requirements and how they do approach handoffs. She's going to do so with different examples so that everyone here can get to see the full workflow. So that's pretty much it. Ines, over to you. You might want to say hi to the people and then keep going.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you for bringing this idea and bringing us together in the product ecosystem. So I'm very happy to be here to share my learnings and experience on how to integrate design in the product development process. So yeah, my name is Ines. I work at Bank of Kigali. I'm a designer. And currently, I lead a team of other designers at the bank. And primarily, our primary role is to create the digital user experience for our digital products. But also, we are the custodian of the visual identity of the brand. So the entire team really is there to think about and stress about those user experience details, the brand details. And yeah, we use Figma for most of our work, from the UX team to the creative team, especially for documentation and design system and style guide documentation. And it also helps us to govern the design and how we work. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, I guess we can go on and get started.
Sure. Let me share my screen. Please just give me a thumbs up. Let me see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So we are gonna go through the product development process, and I would like to mention that the world needs to come together for a product to come to life. So this typical process includes designers, engineers, PMs, and business analysts, but the team really goes beyond that. It goes beyond to testers, people who are in charge of quality analysis, as well as marketing team to understand, is this thing really valuable to the customer? Does it fit the market? Or have we done all the necessary preps and necessary check-ins and validations to know whether we're investing our effort in the right thing? Because the product development process, as you'll see, is kind of expensive in terms of it has a lot of resources, a lot of people working on it, and a lot of tools. So you don't want to create unnecessary mistakes. So you want to foresee everything, hence bringing everybody together to make sure that everything works properly, it meets the right quality, as well as the need, right? So the product development process is as simple as this. So the first thing that happens, and this is really at the level of the product manager, is to come up with a set of product requirements. So initially, the product manager receives a set of insights and concept notes and studies that show why something should be developed, right? So you need to first understand, okay, who are we building for? What is the need? Why are we creating it? And from there, the product managers, they come up with the requirements. So once you get the requirement, we go into the product discovery session. So that's where we really understand all of these things. It's quite a collaborative session with different people from the product team, where you discuss, okay, what are we starting with, which is the MVP. So are we starting with one use case? Are we experimenting? Are we exploring something new? Or maybe we are enhancing something, we are trying to iterate, something that maybe wasn't working well initially. So all of these discussion are done at this second stage of product discovery. Then comes research and insight gathering. So this, again, it could be light or heavy depending on the scope or the stage of the project. But one thing that is always essential, and it's always necessary to never miss, especially as UX designers, because here is where now the designers start to really come in and bring in their deliverables, is we always need to identify the persona, because you cannot serve who you don't know. And the other thing that we always need to do is to map out the journey. So oftentimes we map out the digital journeys, which is good and bad, because we map out the digital journeys to fasten the process, but we have come to realize that it's always good to map out the entire ecosystem. For example, if you are working maybe, say, a travel company or a bank service, you don't just want to map out what happens on the screen. You want to map out the entire ecosystem. So, for example, if you're applying for let me give an example of the bank, because that's what comes to my mind quickly. So yeah, if you're applying for a loan, for example, you need to think about the person who approves the loan. You need to think about the person who signs these loans. You need to think about the customer. You need to think about the bank user. You need to map out the entire journey up to the customer support. So this helps you foresee everything and know where the pain points are and what to focus on for now and what you can focus on later. Then the next step is the concept creation. Again, this is a design-heavy stage where you come up with wireframes, flow diagrams, and early design concepts. And then after that, you prototype. And most of the time, you create this, what you call live interactive prototype, to share with people, because you don't want to share with people your Figma files. So it's always good to prototype, whether it's a big or a small scope. You always need to prototype and make it somehow tactile, so that people see how this interacts in real life. If it is a drop down, so how does it come up? So all of that helps not only the user, but also the team that is working with you to visualize and understand how the system is going to interact beyond the shapes and boxes, but how is the system going to interact? What are the responses? What is the here? Even that's where we work closely with writers to also help us refine the UX copy, because oftentimes you can say, okay, you call a button whatever you want, but a submit button might not always be as clear or as engaging as you want it to be. So you always want to tell the person to call the button a name that incites you to go to the next action. So here, we work with writers to help us refine it and all of that. And after that, you have to validate and iterate. So there's a lot of testing that happens. There's some testing that happen on your side. There's some testing that happen on the user side. But on the design side, we we also have our own ways of testing, especially when it comes to interface building. Is this responding to different screen sizes and all of that? This is not our primary role. We work with quality assurance people to evaluate this and validate this. But here again, a designer needs to be a bit hands-on on this one. Then comes the stage of delivery. So delivery, you need to name properly, you need to prepare all the necessary specs. And by that I mean, so if you're dealing with a screen, for example, you don't want to freestyle and let me say hard code. You don't want to freestyle everything. So if it is a 16 margin, it needs to be a 16 margin. If it's a 32 pixel margin, it needs to be a 32 pixel margin, because these types of documentation and convention, it helps your visual language grow. I mean, it's a work that is not really visible, but I would say it's a work that people feel. They don't necessarily see it, but they feel it with time, and it creates a uniform, a visual language that everybody can use, and it becomes instincts to everyone. In these cases, we use this type of size. I'll go through this while showcasing the exercise that I have, an example. And the last thing that's very important, and I must admit that sometimes we really miss on this one, and I've noticed that we don't really prioritize it while creating a product, but it's very necessary, is to check if everything that you created, of course this is a work that is done at the beginning of the project, but you always need to check accessibility and usability standards. So you want to check that you meet all the accessibility standards. The color contrast is okay. It's readable on dark mode, on light mode. And one great thing is Figma has added this accessibility sort of guide in their color picker. So it keeps making it easier to build while thinking about accessibility. And lastly, there's a post-launch evaluation. You always need to go back to the customer, understand what's working and what's not working, and come back to the cycle and redo the same thing. So now, going to design systems, the conversation for today, maybe before I dive deep into design systems, so I try to first explain the process of coming up with a product. How does design work with other teams to contribute to product success? Now, when it comes to design itself, there's a lot of practices about research and user experience, but focus mainly on design system. And why design system? It's because it builds a universal language for your product that will not only be used by you, but will also be used by developers. That's the first thing. But it also creates a consistent pattern. So this consistent pattern, they are not only valuable to you as a designer or you as the primary custodian of the product, but they're also valuable to the customer. Because, for example, when you talk about infinite scroll, for example, an infinite scroll is an established pattern that someone came up with, and because it was repeated and incorporated in all the work and was contextualized to several things, it became a system that is adopted, and it also became muscle memory to the users, and now it's something that everybody uses. So this type of thinking allows you to think about, can you create a pattern that is going to scale and be used by everybody, and it will become a new digital language. Basically, I believe maybe 20 years ago people are not used to scrolling, but now we do. So yeah. So to continue, yeah. So to explain a bit more on the design system, uh, this is heavy UI work. So sometimes you run a UI audit in your company. For example, you have, say, 10 products, 12 products, you run them, and then you realize every button has its size, it has its color, it has its whatever. And on the eye, maybe it cannot seem very different, but this thing creates so many depths while product development, especially with front end, it creates so many depths, and then you realize that maybe you had one button that was doing the same was fulfilling the same purpose, but you realize you have like 10 versions of one thing that is doing the same thing. You realize you have 50 shades of blue, yet you don't even need them. So these things, they make the code heavy, they make your design library heavy, it's hard to manage, and the list goes on. So this is one of the things that you motivates the need of a design system. And so the design system really is a collection of reusable components guided by clear standards that can be assembled together to build a number of things. So why do they matter? First of all, they reduce reinvention. Say you want to create like a sign-up form, right? Uh, I think we all have a picture of what a sign-up form looks like. That is something that has been invented, it has been studied to say, okay, for someone to create an account, they need to add in a username, password, and then confirm. They're not going to start with a password and a username. They're not going to start with something else. So this is a result of having a clear, documented pattern and a clear documented system, because it reduces reinvention. You always know, okay, for such a situation, I'll go for this solution. And as your team grows and as your product grows, you keep finding out more contexts that you need to design for, and again you have to come back and document them and explain which problem they're fixing and why they're used the way they're used. Another thing is it improves decision making and less design errors. That is very simple. You don't want to onboard another person on the team and have them rethink something that is as simple as maybe transferring or reviewing your history, right? The third thing is that it increases collaboration. So when you have a consistent design system that is somewhere, it's kept somewhere, so it allows everybody to move in the same direction. It's like we have a set of 10 bricks. I'll plot these three bricks, you plot these three bricks, you plot these three bricks, and all of them will make maybe a certain structure. So having these design systems, these components allows you to have like a direction and what to use to build something. So it's not like someone is always having to figure out where am I going, what am I using. So all of these are things that allows you to just consider it as a piece of puzzle. So you work together to make the puzzle make sense. And lastly, it allows faster output and time to market, and everybody loves that. So that is the internal value. And now the external value, it allows the users to learn the product easier. I was just giving an example of an infinite scroll or a drag and drop. So these are things that were created, but they were not only created for the internal teams, but they were also created to help the users learn faster. So when you have like a consistent design pattern, it's easy to remember and juggle around those things. Another thing is it reduces customer support, of course, because the experience is self-explanatory, and again, it elevates brand trust. So you don't want to have a homepage that looks like its own universe, then a payment page that looks like its own universe, then the two, they never marry together, they never have like one image. So these things, And of course, if you are you want to leverage your image, you want to look consistent and not bipolar, if I may say. So yeah. So I'll take you through examples of similar systems, maybe before we dive into a typical digital design system. I just thought of a few other systems that exist in the world that we already see that we can always learn from and use as great examples. So I looked at this place and just it made me think of a design system because I cannot imagine how they could have built this structure, this neighborhood, without a system. So it looks like they had like rules, they had foundations. So maybe the foundation could have been, okay, we lay our bricks like this. We are going to use maybe these colors. This is going to be the structure. So that is maybe the foundation, right? And now the process to get there. You're not just gonna put everything however you want. Maybe there's a structure. Maybe start with a line, then a second line, then a third line. And that formula, the more it repeats itself, the more it creates the first block, the second block, then it creates the house. And once you've adapted that formula, it's really easy to replicate that to the other house, which forms a neighborhood. So, and really that goes to the fundamentals of design systems. It's just a set of small components that grow into big components and bigger organisms. So for example, here we have a brick, and when you have like a layer of many bricks, it creates is it a block? Maybe a block, right? And then lots of blocks create a wall. And then when you have 4 walls, it creates a structure. And then you have one structure on top of another structure, it creates a house. So it's more of a anatomic way of doing things, starting from a small component to the bigger component, so that whenever something breaks, you can tell it broke here because you identify it in a more systematic way. But also if you don't want to remove one thing and the whole house breaks down. So having this sort of structure helps you understand it better. And this takes me to my first example or exercise. So is this? Yeah, I think I have it here. So there's an exercise that I was recently looking at, and while I was preparing this, and I think I worked on it with the BK design team. I don't know if they're here. Shout out to them. So yeah, we were actually facing, and I know I'm preaching about design systems, but don't come at us if you ever see that we are not as consistent as I'm preaching it. So first of all, you need to understand that it's doing a design system is a work in progress, and the more your product grows, the more it requires constant follow through and constant governance. So we were at this stage where we felt like our design system is starting to be higgy somehow, and the team has grown. People come, people go, and you're like, okay, how do we standardize our understanding? Well, before even building a design system, so how do we standardize our understanding and our logic on how to create these things? So we just came up with a simple exercise of the human face. So we're like, okay, what's the human face? The human face itself is a structure because you have a head, then you have eyes, and you have nose, and maybe the eyes has like its own components. It has the pupils, it has the eyebrows and whatnot, and lashes. Like, how do we create a similar thing? Because it's going to help us now understand better and also make it more interesting because always it's very easy to think about design system in theory, but when you're stressed and working under pressure, it's never easy to follow these things. So one of the ways that help us to break out of that is to always come up with fun ways of learning and exercises on how to do these things and understand them better. So yeah, going back to this, we try to list down the components of the face that make up the face, and you're like, okay, now, so if you already know design systems, you know that the design system is made of components and variables and variants. So the first component is the nose. We have the eyes, we have the mouth, we have the ears, we have the hair, we have the beard. So like a nose, in our example, we wanted it to be constant. We didn't want to stretch it or narrow it. We just wanted it to be constant because we were trying to create like different facial expressions. So we wanted it to be constant. And the eyes, because however, whenever you're moving, you squint your eye, maybe when you're happy, your eyes change. We realize that it's a very, very constant variable, as well as the mouth, ears, not as much. Hair, of course, it can always change depending on style. And then we also have this beard, which has the Boolean value, and the Boolean value, we all know that Boolean value is something that can be on and off or can be true or false. So this is something that is conditioned by gender. So after listing these things, we created, so we had already some facial expressions. So we downloaded this face from somewhere, and we tried to break down all of its components and separate them and try to rebuild the face and create facial expressions from it. So we have the eyes here, and then we created components. So each component, we try to create a name for it or a label for it. As you can see here, we have these eyes. They are neutral. This one, we call it suspicious. This one, we call it bored. This one, we call it annoyed. And the list goes on. We have the same properties for eyebrows. We have the same property for the mouth. And then we went to the face. Now the face is the main structure. It's the main, like the biggest, should I say, template. So once we created the face, we're like, okay, how are we going to plot this components on this face? So we created things like slots. So each part of the face had a slot, and we came up with this. So now the fun part was we ended up the exercise having to change the facial expression. We say, okay, for example, let's make her be surprised, and maybe let's make her lips under. So whenever you change these components, you get a different facial expression. So this again gets me back to the point of saying a design system is, as you know, is beyond being a design nerd, but it also helps you like be very efficient. So in a different world, you would have created how many 10 faces or 20 faces with different facial expressions, but here we're being very efficient. We are creating the components first, then we set up the face, and then we plot this facial expression on the face, and then we just switch them. And I believe that this is I don't know how in animation studio they do it, but I believe that's how they could do it to be more efficient and say, okay, or if you're creating an avatar, you don't want to create a set 20 or 30, a set of 30 avatars. You want to create one structure and do permutations around it to create the outcome that you want. Yeah. So going back to my slide. Now, that's where I'm gonna dive deeper into the structure of a design system. So as I said, the design system, it has foundations, it has atoms, it has molecules, it has patterns, it has templates and documentation. What does that mean? So when we talk about foundation, is what we normally call style. Style guides. And foundation, we have colors, we have typography, we have icons, we have spacing, we have motion. You cannot create a button without knowing your style, because again, a product is a product. It's something that you people are going to consume, and if you want people to consume something, you need to have style. You need to have emotion. So all these emotions are set up in the foundation. Right? And then now you go into the second level of UI elements, which are atoms. So in atoms, you have things that you can't really break down. into something smaller. Like a button is a button. You cannot break it into something smaller. If you break a button into something else, it will no longer be a button. A text area, a checkbox, a label, a switch. This can have variations. You can have a button that is, active, inactive, primary button, secondary button, and all of that. And then we go to the third layer, which is the molecules. Now, the molecules, they are a set of atoms that are put together to create a bigger form, like a table, or a date picker, or a card, or a dialog box, or a breadcrumb. So, like for a good example is the table, because it's a set of cells and cells that come up together to become a column. So the table can really go big and be wide. It can have buttons, it can have states, it can be editable. So the button is the table is one of the most complicated things to create. And when you have a good setup system on how to create this table,
Sorry,
it saves you time.
Sorry, I had to raise my hand. Probably didn't see it in the presentation. Yeah, I just wanted to take a quick second and ask everyone on the call, are we following? Is everyone on the call the designer to sort of get to familiarize with what Ines is saying? Just a quick pulse check. You can reply in the chat. Okay, I see 2 out of 25, 3. Okay, looking good. Cool, over to you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for checking in. And yeah, so I was saying, yeah, there's so many layers for this, and then we go to the next layer, which is the interaction pattern. So I think I talked about this before, where I was mentioning the example of an infinite scroll. So that is a pattern that you establish, and it is created from how you want people to interact with the product. So this is more of a theoretical part on how do you want people to interact with your product, how do you want people to feel. Maybe you want, I can't think of another example, just the infinite scroll just keeps coming in my mind. But yeah, you want people to consume content and yeah, and never leave the, yeah, that's a pattern that's going to work in your favor. So then comes the second layer of templates. Now, templates, these are things that the bigger blocks that you can always reuse. Like, for example, we talk about the contact us page. This is very common with websites, like a gallery page, a contact us page, a search result page. These are typically templates where like a few things change, but they are like more or less the same page that you reuse over and over. And lastly come documentation. Sorry, I think there's a typo here. Yeah, lastly comes documentation. You can create all of these things. They're very nice, they're very clean, they're very fancy. But if you don't document them, they might end up, in your draft file. And if no one uses them, then the design system is not going to be created. So documentation really is a way of creating libraries where people go and pick those items. Like most people call them UI kits. Is to create style guides that the brand needs to follow and the team needs to follow. Is to create the UX principles of saying, us as maybe a bank, security is everything. We cannot compromise on security. So since we can't compromise on security, we need to have maybe two-factor authentication all the time. Maybe the user does ABCD, or we need to have like some sort of interpass code whenever the user enters this. So these are principles that you establish for your product. And then lastly, naming convention. You cannot create all of these things if you don't name them. Yeah, so you want a list of buttons to be easily identifiable, a list of tables to be easily identifiable, so that the team and everybody working in the product team can know what to use, when to use it. Yeah, so now going to the most interesting part on how we do it at BK. So first, to understand our context and where we come from, the design team has been established at Bank of Kigali in 2018, and it was because the bank had a vision of digitizing all of its services. So if you want to digitize the service, definitely you want to put a lot of emphasis on the user experience. So hence the idea of having a design team. So in 2021 up to 2023, we really worked hard. I think that's when we released the first BK mobile app. Really worked hard to sort of unify the design language. So it was a bit, each product had its own language, it has its own style, and all of that. So we really worked a lot to unify all of the digital services to feel like one. They are like part of one brand. And now in 2024 to now the vision for the design sort of expanded, and we were also becoming part of the brand, because we before we used to focus on the brand of the product itself, but today we are also focusing on the entire brand, and how do we make sure that the design language that we're establishing is not only for digital products, but it also spans across the all that brand touch points as well. So whether they are physical touch points or any other brand touch point or digital brand touch point, and making sure that we govern all of these things to make sure we cut this brand inconsistencies. Yeah, and I think I've talked about this, and yeah, I wanted now to go through how we are set up, how we set up our design system. So now going into practice and showing you what I was mentioning and how we use this in real life, we have foundations, right? So this foundation, so I tried to pick a few things from our existing libraries. So these foundations are a set of colors, typography, icons, spacing, motion, illustration, all of that, and they need to have rules. We don't just set up a color like that. It needs to pass an accessibility check. It needs to be a brand color. It needs to have both the dark mode and the light mode, and it needs to have guidelines. And a typical example here is hope it's not too small. Typical example here is how we define this color. So we have, what are our primary colors? We have these sort of blues, these types of blues. We have the secondary colors. So what do they do, and what they represent? They are secondary color or accent colors. We have the neutrals that are used for text, subtext, and all light neutral background. We have alerts. We also have elevation. This is more for shadow and to provide depth and hierarchy. You don't want something that is very continuous and very blunt, so shadows and all of that provide. I think you already know that. Yeah, so talking about rules now, yeah, here now is when we go deep and explain where you use which color. So for example, for action, you're going to use this color, and where you have the dash, it's not applicable. For messages, you use, maybe here you don't use blue, you don't use BK light, maybe you use it only here to show pending action, or to show that something is going out or going in. So for status or for indication, we use the colors like this. For badges, or badges, we mean labeling or categorization, we use this type of colors. For text and content, we use these types of colors. And now here to the next slide, we are showing now accessibility. Yes, you can use white on blue. No, you cannot use navy blue on blue. So these are tested with the Figma plugins that allows that show us contrast and accessibility checks and all of that. So we tend to verify this and to avoid all of these problems that might arise when people don't follow these things. And yeah, sometimes people might try to be artistic, but it's always good to remind them that you have to, your work needs to be accessible, it needs to be readable. However, much you want to play around with things, it needs to match that. So we are very keen on that. And then the same for typography. There are things like responsiveness. You always need to make sure that your type or font is going to work from a bigger screen to a smaller screen. It's going to be readable and all of that. And same as icons, We also show like a list of icons, and icons always need to be labeled for someone to know and always remember or always refer to them when they're building their interface, as well as illustrations. As well as, so the next thing is grids. So grid is very important because it creates, not only creates consistency, but it also reduces these types of rework, where you know that when you're creating a table, the margin is always maybe 40 pixels. Maybe when you're inside your frame or the workspace maybe of the user, it needs to have a margin on the left and a margin on the right that has this side. It needs to have this type of padding. Yeah, and all of those technical and now these are the foundation. These were the foundational bits. And when you go to the UI element, same thing. We break them down into that atomic structure. You want to start with the smallest components, the buttons, the tabs, the search, all of these things that you, when you break them down, they become something else. You have to document them and name them. And of course, you also need to do make sure that we have the, I think here it's not working. So you have the big size and the small size, and the dark mode and the light mode, of course. Same thing as the bigger components. When you talk about molecules, now that's where we start having tables. See here we have like a small table. This is how it looks like in the font. This is how it looks like in the web version, and so many other components. And now when you talk about now interaction patterns, is the action, like the pattern is a pattern. What are the patterns that you have in your application that keeps coming and you want the users to get used to? For example, a progress indicator. I hope I mentioned it. Yeah. So a progress indicator is one of the patterns that we use when the user is onboarding. So on web, it typically looks like this. You want to tell someone, okay, before you're on board, you have to introduce yourself, you have to do this, you have to do that. The same applies on the mobile interface. When you're onboarding, there's a list of things, and part of the process, there's this, I cannot zoom, but yeah, there's a list of things that you are presented, of things that you need to do, and there's also a progress or maybe a stepper that you see here that shows, okay, maybe out of 5 steps that you're supposed to do, you're at the 2nd step or you're at the 3rd step. And then lastly, we have templates. Now, templates are things that we love the most because they give us less work. You want to have a page where the only thing you change is content and maybe icons and logo and placement, but it generally looks the same. For example, this is the bill payment page for BK. You have this is how it looks on web, this is how it looks on app, and to be honest, this has been the easiest thing to convert from one device to the other because the components were scalable. They could easily go to mobile, they could easily go to web. The padding the sizing or the margins were already defined. So changing this was very easy because we had already created the components that materials needed, and it was easy to scale and easy to play around with. Yes, and lastly, it's documentation. You always need to have a UI kit, what we call a component library. So you need to have a kit where you keep all of these things. So this is a screenshot from the UI kit that we have. So here you will see things like buttons. They are in their own category. We also have a kit for illustrations. They are kept here. We document by size, small, 2, medium, large, so that everybody who's going to work on a project, they pick it from here. Or even when they want to create something new, they just add it from this library so that whoever else will want to reference to it, they will not get lost or they will duplicate effort. You always have to check here and see if there's nothing new and reuse it. We also have a library of assets like flags, billers, and all of that, navigation menu. So yeah, the list goes on. And again, it's very important to have a style guide, right? That governs why you do what you do and how you do it. For example, here we say, okay, use icons to improve the user experience, not to improve the visual side of it. You avoid non-inclusive, the don'ts are avoid non-inclusive icons, things that don't necessarily represent the audience, Or another maybe rule would be simple icons with minimum details. And the don't use icon just to make the UI prettier. So you have to use the icon to leverage the experience. So this is one of the, I would say, this is a rule that you establish for a company, depending with your brand goals and your brand objectives. If you have an audience that you want to, that you want to experiment with, or you have a different age range, I really don't know, it depends with the brand objectives. But here our objective was to show that Bank of Kigali is very simple and very straightforward and can be easily trusted, hence coming up with this rules. Maybe another rule was use enough brand colors to make the brand connection visible. Every single color doesn't have to be from the BK Mother brand for digital platform. This was mainly due to the fact that in some cases we had some very
I think Ines is having a bit of an internet issue.
hello again. I'm back. Sorry about that. Let me reshare my screen. Yeah. So yeah, we were here. We were talking about having a standard style guide that that says why you do what you do. This is really a typical style guide. You just need to get a buy-in from most people, especially the brand team. When you're focusing on product, you really need to work closely with the brand team to make sure that whatever you are coming up with as rules is something that meets the brand goals and the brand objectives. And lastly, no, not lastly, before I go to the last one, you need to have a hands of UX principles. For example, at the bank, words really matter. Maybe it's really a work in progress, but this is a vision or a mission that we have as a design team to make sure that to make banking understandable. Because today, when you look at bank statements, summaries, SMS that you receive, the narrative is always coded and all of that. So we really want to make sure that whatever we can have the ability to change and control, we make it as intuitive as possible. Things like maybe Momo outwards transfer, it's not a very intuitive language. So we really want to make sure that as one of our UX principles, words and actions and calls to actions are very clear and we avoid jargons. Another principle that we love so much is attractive equals to usable, and to not really overlook the aesthetics and think that aesthetic is just for looking fancy and everything. But sometimes aesthetic sells a story, it sells how much you matter, and the more you polish your craft, the more it holds a way to your brand and the level of it shows how much you care and in your level of commitment to meeting people's needs. But of course, attractive needs to be usable, and something like making choice easy. It sounds obvious, but sometimes it's not very obvious. You don't want to overwhelm someone with things that they don't need maybe at that time. That's when we come up with things like progressive disclosure. For those who are not used to this, it's like a way of showing someone, step by step, or not revealing everything at the same time. You present a page where they're gonna fill in this information, and then on the next one they're gonna fill in the other information. This sort of it reveals. It's a good practice to use when you have a lot of complex things at the same time. So you want to reveal them progressively, and the list goes on. So there's a very important thing called governance that you need to have. So our governance, as I created a flowchart here, so this is something that we picked from from existing companies on the governance. So I will not really go too much into it, but the purpose of the governance is to push your team or the people on the team to create new things when it's necessary, reuse when it's necessary, and always have that in their mind. So a typical process will be, okay, does the component exist when you're trying maybe to create something new? Does this component exist, or does this pattern exist? If yes, does it meet all the requirements? If no, unpack needed requirements and present to the team. When you've done this, is this a new component or a modification? If it's a new component, does this component scale across different products or screens? If no, it's a one-off and it's a local component page. And if it's a yes, great, you can create this component. So the process is really long, but the main objective of this process is to keep everybody in check, and to also increase that collaboration, because I might be working on a service, I might be maybe working on payments, maybe on a different product, and maybe someone else is working on loans. And when people are working in their respective product teams, sometimes they don't come back as designers and see, okay, are we in the same direction? So things, they force us to work together and have the same rules, and always keep each other in check and be like, okay, you're using this solution, but maybe I created this solution for something similar. You can try to see if you can use it. Yeah, so that's how the governance is. It's not very perfect for now. It's something that we're trying to adopt, but at least our internal sessions that we have weekly, we always make sure that when someone is presenting a solution, we always also check in those things and see if they are not creating one-off solutions that are going to come and break other things and break other patterns. So yeah, and create that habit and make it everyone's business. It's not just maybe the team lead's business or the person who's working on the project. It's everybody's business, and for you to make business, you have to create sessions and a lot of collaborative work, because building a design system, when you have when you're working with multiple people, it requires loving that system. If people don't buy into that, it's very difficult for them to always go back to it. So it's also another bigger job and another responsibility to, if you're leading a team or if you're leading a project, or if even when you're working alone, it's always your job as a designer to make sure that you bring other people together, so that you use the same patterns, especially when you're working on one product. So the reason why I'm insisting on this is because where I'm currently working is we're working for the product of one brand, and most of those things are somehow interlinked. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel every now and then. And yeah, so now after this, I'm going to go to the most interesting part of the demo. I'm going to so I'm going to do a quick demo on how these things now are done in real life, right? So I'm going to show you everything from what I talked about, the PRDs to the actual design. So now the PRD, we've sat with the product owners, the product managers, everybody. We're happy. We're this thing that we're going to create. It has value, all of that. Everything has been signed. Everyone's happy. Now comes the ticket, the project ticket, or yeah, how we like calling it ticket. Is typically you have a big set of service, and when you are working on the project, you don't want to directly. I mean, this really depends with how the company is set up and how you go to the market. But in our case, we like breaking things down into tickets so that people get to to niche or make something better and have like a clear scope of what they're going to do. So here I picked an example of I just took a screenshot from one of the tickets maybe that we had maybe in 2023. So this is a project that is already, this is a feature that is already live. So I'm not exposing any confidential information. Yeah, so it is settings and profile. We wanted to give the users the ability to change the password. So what the format that we normally have is there's the ID of the ticket. What is this change? It falls under which feature group? Is it under settings and profile? Is it under account management? Is it under user management? Is it, you have to describe that. And another thing that they tell us now is, okay, now what is that exact feature? It's changing the password. Cool. Which service is it under? Settings and maybe security and access. So yeah, giving a list of things, and as UX designer, you need to start now thinking on where you can place them, and even all the things, all the knowledge you know, and all the knowledge you have, and all the things you know about your your UX rules, we need to start thinking about how to place them and where they're going to fit within the product. And now comes user stories. So user stories here are a list of things that they tell you the user needs to accomplish. As a user, I must be able to do this, I must be able to do that, I must be able to create a strong password without errors, I must be able to do all of that stuff. And then business requirements. This is more of a now what the business is requiring, and on the system side, maybe the screen must contain a current password, a new password, and a confirmed password. Maybe the password policy. So these business requirements, they really come from different people. They might come from customer experience, they might come from security, they might come from risk. Everybody have to chip in what they think should be met for this product to be successful. And lastly, the user acceptance criteria. These are the things that the user can do, right?
So
Now,
yes, quick one.
yes,
So I keep raising my hand. I don't know why it's not reflecting. So this
yeah,
is a quick check-in. So can everyone see the QA feature now?
we look at the QA now.
No, it wasn't available before. Just want to make sure everyone can see. Okay, cool. So yeah, this was so basically as Ines is going through the presentation, is going through multiple elements. Just make sure you just post your question um, for data. It's easier that way. Cool. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so now the acceptance criteria are things that we shouldn't allow. These are things that you shouldn't allow. Like you don't want the user maybe to use a weak password or reuse the password that they already have, and all of that. So once you have this set of requirements, as a designer, you need to map out the user flow. So when you're mapping out the user flow, now that's when now the design work starts. Okay, you say, now the user is going to log in. It needs to reflect what the requirements is saying, and you can always add in your recommendation, especially when you think there are things that are touching the user experience that aren't maybe clear. You can always ask questions and recommendations, which is why you always need to come up with a flow early on before starting to design and developing. So the user will log in, they'll navigate to the profile, they'll go to security and access. Again, this is stating the requirement. This needs to be the service under settings and security and access. And the access details, they're going to click on change password, they'll authenticate, and they'll have 3 fields: enter current password, enter new password, confirm password. And these are the fields that are required for them to continue. After confirming, they enter the OTP, they sort of logged out, or they can even skip if they want, and now they log in with the new password. That is the journey. However, though, these things, again, they're created out of knowledge of your product. You need to sort of know the product to know where to place it. Saying that you're going to navigate to profile is something that you have as a knowledge of your existing product, and sort of know what fits where. And which again takes me to the thing of pattern and key element. So when you have patterns and an existing structure of your of your product, it sort of creates muscle memory for everybody, really. Even when you're not a designer, even when you're a product person or an engineer, the more the things are repeated, the more when something new comes, it's easy to locate where to put it. And this may be the typical structure of how our screens are set up. Normally we have this is where the navigation point is, and this is where we like to maximize the app branding, and all the actions are happening here in the middle, and we have a main navigation menu. So when you have this sort of structure, you already know it, you already have it in your mind, you can always tell where to put what. And again, we have a set of core screens. So these are the main pages. And with these main pages, we have this already it's a language, but also a pattern. For example, oops, I think it has broken. So yeah, so we have this consistent language, and also like these things that keep coming up every now and then. Like, okay, this top part is where we brand, and this is where the user like navigates within that screen, if that makes sense. And then now this white part is where now the user accesses links, they can request something, they can we have the call to actions and the list of services, and that's where we interest the user maybe to adopt another product. For example, here, explore our savings offers. So all of that stuff happen here. This needs to be this again is created and defined as your product matures. And then there's also the navigation part. So this already creates an existing structure. So whenever you're creating, you already know this goes here, when, and where, and how. Now, going back after the user flow, you create a wireframe. So this again, it depends with how you do it at your organization. So I've seen most people use pen and paper and pen, paper and pencil to just draw and map out, because you can go straight from here to the UI. It's very good, but again, there are things that you need to agree on with the team before maybe you take a step further. Or sometimes maybe your design system has matured so much and has become so has become muscle memory that you don't even need to maybe to draw these things. You already know which component to use here, and it has become, you already have it in your brain. So this only becomes a mandatory and very recommendable when you're coming up with a new solution and you don't want to invest much work in the interface without aligning on the structure or the blueprint. So yeah, so here, this is where now I'm defining what I want. Okay, the app is going to open. I'll have this screen. Then I'll enter my credentials if it's a passcode, and then I'll go to the homepage. So once I go to the homepage, I'm going to click here, which is what we had defined here. Where is it? Yeah, I'm going to click here on navigate to profile. So once I click on navigate to profile, here I'll go to my profile. I will see a list of things. So here we are assuming that this page already exists. So I just need to know, okay, if this page already exists, then I need to add it there. And the requirements are saying that it needs to be under security and access, or it needs to be a service that is cluttered under security and access. I'll just link them to the security and access screen, and we'll have a list of now services that are under now this. So under the services, again, it's up to your judgment as a designer to group things together, again, based on the principles that you have. If you have a principle that says, don't clutter the screen or don't overwhelm the user, in that case, you might want to disclose things step by step, or you might want to group things so that it's easily digestible. It all depends with how you design. Yeah, so then you click here, the requirement saying after security questions, we need to make sure it's really you. So you enter the passcode, and now you will input the current password, the new password. You confirm the password. There's a forgot password for people who don't remember the password, and then save changes, receive an OTP, and then you're prompted with a pop-up that tells you, do you want to log out and now reset your password, or you want to cancel it? So once you log out, you go to the logout screen and now enter the app with the new credentials. All right. So now we're going to try to now create this. Let me bring it here. Sorry. So we're going to try to create this same. We're going to try to create now the UI for this particular flow or service. So yeah, and I'll use all the principles and all the things that I preached in my slides. So we have the welcome screen first, right? So I have my welcome screen here. So you always need to define the size of your screen, or the standard size of your screen. For example, us, we use iPhone 8. We use iPhone 8 because we don't want to use the biggest phone, because not everybody has a huge phone. So that's why we use iPhone 8. So we have a status bar here as our initial. All screens have the status bar, and I'll pick a color, right? I'll pick a color from my welcome screen. So already we have our brand colors. It's really easy. So either um, actually, there's something I forgot to mention about, which is very interesting. Tokens. So before maybe we go into this, I wanted to just us to take a look at our tokens. So I talked about foundations early in my presentation, and these foundations, they're pretty much your style guide. But now this style guide, it needs to exist somewhere. You need to have like a repository of that style guides with the tokens. So tokens are codified or labeled values of your brand items, if that makes sense. So if you have, for example, a color, if you have, maybe you have 10 blues, you need to keep them somewhere. You're not just gonna leave them in the style guide and everyone who wants to use it, they're gonna go in the style guide document and drop the color and bring it here. No, you have to create this set of tokens that everybody is going to reference to their UI. So for example, our tokens here, we have the color primitives, which are like the main brand colors. We have color tokens that now go into the details of the colors. We also have the spacing tokens, as well as the typography tokens. So the color tokens here, try to make it big. So here we have, first of all, BK Blue. So where is BK Blue used and how is it used? So there are different color values, from the least, how do I say it? The least visible, the one with the least contrast, to the most, from the lightest one to the strongest one, right? So here the BK Blue starts from 300 to 700. So we have all of these colors here that we have defined. We have a list of neutral colors that are, we keep them here so that everyone who's using the file can always use these colors without having to manually go use the color picker and drop them somewhere and place them here. So this, again, it allows consistency, but it also helps developers to have the colors kept somewhere, and they don't have to have like a duplicate of so many colors that they're not even going to use. So as well as accents, they're keep here. So here, the reason why they're called primitives, they're like the most standard colors, right? Now we have the second layer of colors, which goes like things like buttons, things like links, things like text. Here, for example, we have content, background, content separator color, content defaults, and all of that, as well as spacing. So spacing, normally you want to have like a list of how you space out your things, if that makes sense. So here you have like, let me give an example. Maybe let's just of brand spacing, right? So you say in mobile, you need to have like maybe for those who know this 8x8 rule, that is it's called to be perfect, and all of that fancy nerdy stuff. So now, but now the beautiful thing about this is you will have the same layouts and spacing in all of your interfaces, because you have defined them and are going to use them as the product matures. So here, for example, you might say, I have a sizing of 8. Maybe you will use it for margins, maybe you will use it for paddings. These are, again, they are under your documentations and how you use this, but the point is you always need to define this sizing so that people don't use inconsistent sizing. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to mention. Yeah, so going back to our exercise. So again, there are colors, there are tokens, as well as a so my style. Is this style? Yeah, so here we're going to use the BK blue, right? We're going to use the BK blue. So we have tokens as well as, as styles. So the reason why these are kept as styles is because at least last time I checked, I know Figma does not allow gradient values, doesn't keep them as tokens, so we keep them as styles. We have the BK gradient, and so we also have maybe this is the welcome screen that we want to create. I can see there's a BK logo and the welcome to BK thingy here. So I'll go straight to my icon library and I'll pick the BK logo and I'll place it, sorry about that, I'll place it straight here to my interface. So again, when you're talking about this, you want to make sure that you're using your existing tokens. So we have a set of so many sizes. So you want to pick a size that already exists in your guidelines, right? So for example, you say you have a 28, you have a size of so these are font sizes, but they're also sizes of items. So I might say maybe I want to use, sorry about that. I might say I want to use maybe say, yeah, sizing. There's an issue here. Right, so we have a set of sizes here that we want to use. You can also use this one, XLG. So there's a set of so many sizes that we can use, right? And but let me use the small one. Yeah, the slightly smaller one. And then I'll go maybe to my text. So I'll say, okay, welcome to Bank of Kigali. Welcome to Bank Kigali. And again, same thing. I want to to use the size the fonts token that I have. So we have different font styles, and I'll pick from the existing library. So I'm going to use this one, H2 heading, and yep. And then lastly, I'm going to look at my component library here. We have the icon library here. Yeah, I'll pick this illustration and I'll just go and paste it in my screen. Yep, so we have our first screen, which is good. Now going to the login screen, I have the login screen that is laid out like this. So I'll try to pick some elements from my style, my component library, and just place in the login screen. So the first item that we have is the status bar. Here we're good. We already have it. We need to use the existing color. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to again pick the same color that we use for the guideline, and I'll go into the component library to pick my headings. So the wireframe here, in the wireframe here, it's showing that. I really hope you guys can follow me because I'm switching very quickly. So the wireframe here is showing that we need this area is where we're going to pick the language, and maybe we're going to mention the logo. So I already have the components that are really there for that, where we have the language and the logo. Yeah. So this is my component, and I will just place it here. Make my job very easy. Yeah. So we have text. Normally text, you want to use the existing styles. So I will not use this this same style, I'll use a different style from what we have. So we have a style called page header. Good. So we have a style called page header. It's already existing. I'm just reusing it. And I will have the login, and now I'm gonna add in that component of the entering the passcode. So I already have this component, and the most interesting part here now becomes the states of this component. So as I mentioned, a component needs to have different states and different values. So here, for example, our state or different variances rather. So here our state is you're entering a passcode, but when you're entering a passcode, this value can be selected or unselected. So here, say for example, we want this to be selected. We're gonna change it like this. We're not gonna change it manually. We're gonna change it like this. And this is, you typically want to use this when you're prototyping or showing how the app will interact. Maybe to put it more into context, I'll have my first screen that is like this, that is default. And maybe when I'm prototyping, I want to link maybe this link from here to here, right? And to show that whenever you're clicking, this button will change to selected, right? And now lastly, we have our small component where we need to, our input, one is keying in their passcode, we need to see the inputs entering. So that component also exists. I'm gonna look for it. Let me try to find it. I hope I named it properly. I think, sorry, I think it's called pin something output. Pin output, cool, I have it here. I'll look for it. If you're seeing here, each component is created with its instances, or it's just take it as a parent and a child. So each component is created with its children, and yeah. So when you change it on any other file, because the parent cannot, unless if you detach the child from its parent, when you create it in any other file, it's going to change, right? So I'm just selecting this small item here, and I'm just pasting it here. Oops, let it go here. All right, so I'm pasting it here. The same I'm gonna do on the second screen. This the reason why I'm creating this second screen is to create that link to know, okay, once the screen is initial, it looks like this, but once someone has started typing, it's going to look like this. So if we have already typed maybe our 4 digits, it's going to look like this, right? This is how it looks like when it is entered. So nothing is created manually. You just need to know the values that you need and create children and variances of those components, so that you can always reuse them anywhere, and anyone from the team can come and pick it and reuse them wherever they want. So now we have already logged in successfully, and now we're going to go to the next step of entering the app. We've entered the app, right? It's something I've bugged here. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, we have entered the app, and here I'm keeping the homepage and the settings and profile screen, because we are assuming that these things are already existing, and these things are already existing, and all we want is just an entry point to link us to our new screen that we're going to create, which is this one, right? So same thing I'm going to do. I'm going to create this screen. So let me make this, let me hide this background, and we're going to create this screen from scratch. Now let me try to look at how this screen is structured and what I'm going to need. Yeah, so I'll need a page header. We already have page headers in our design system, and every time I see this, because I'm used to the to the language. And every time I see this separator, I know that the top part is branded, so it needs to be blue. And I know that this bottom part is not branded, which means it needs to be white. So I will go to my library of components and try to see which one the wireframe is talking about. I think it's this one. Yeah, so now since we have a yeah, we have our page here. Okay, yeah, so this is a heading. I'm gonna create the background in a second. So I'm saying the wireframes are saying it needs to be, the page needs to be called security. The page needs to be called security. And I'm going to go pick one of the background colors because we have different background sections. We have the small, the medium, I think you can see them here. We have the large background, we have the medium, small background, and the medium background. Based on the architecture of the app, this is where we defined it. And
Ines,
yes, please.
let's sort of be mindful of the time. We're already 2 minutes out.
So this is our screen here. And cool. Yeah. So already we have our background here. We call them something neutral, something. Yeah, I'm gonna use neutral background. And now we have to create a list of these items. Yeah, this list of items. So I'll go again in my component library and I'll check how do we normally do lists. So we have a container. We also have a title, a section title somewhere here. I don't remember where it is. Yeah, it's somewhere here. So I will do the same. Where is it? Yeah. So I have a container here that is really, I can change items however I want and add them however I want. I'm going to place my title here. You're going to see that here at the beginning it's like this, but since in our guidelines we are required to use 16 margin for most containers, I'm just going to go here in the spacing and I'm going to look for 16. I'm not going to create it manually. See here we have the token called brand spacing. 16, created manually, it's done. I have to stress myself. Show header, what is this? Show header icon. Yes, yeah. So I'm going to remove the icon. I don't have to delete it. I can just switch it on. This again is what we mentioned when we were talking about Boolean values. So Boolean values is any value that can be on and off. So here, because I know that in such situations we have studied and we know that in such situations, there are instances where the user needs to click more, or there are instances where they don't necessarily need to click more on this title and it doesn't need to exist. You remove it. We're gonna call it what's the name? Access details. So the first the thing we need to create is username. So what we have here on our sketch is we need to have a username, a password, and a security question. So a username. And so as you can see here, we have this thing of again, this component, it has so many values and so many variables. So we have this component, if you can follow where my cursor is, that has different tags. So here it says the right asset, which is this asset. It could be more, it could be a button, it could be a toggle, it could be a label, right? So now when you have this, it's very easy for you to switch and select the component that you need without having to recreate everything all the time. So it can have a subline or not. it can have an icon or not. So that is, what's very interesting about these things. So we're gonna say, okay, user name, and we know that use for username, it needs to be editable. So we're gonna create the edit button, same as here we are saying password, saying password. Again, it also needs to be editable. Here we have security questions. So I'm not going to draw the entire screen because of time. I'm just gonna draw this few things because that's what we need. Uh, edit.
There's no way you can have AI build the rest of the things.
I wish, but I know Figma will get there very soon. Yeah. So now I think maybe Frank, I think maybe what we can do to save time and leave time for Q&As, we could start our Q&As, and maybe if people have questions on this particular process, we continue it from here, or just see if even more people are interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This so these so we're left with these two.
Come again, please.
If you follow me on Figma.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. But I do think we sort of captured um, uh, the whole idea of using a design system to build up screens, design ticket. Uh, for the sake of time, we could skip this too, and then we're going to have to find a way to have more demos like this in the future. But yeah, as Ines was saying, I think okay. So we have Ines. Can you access the Q&A tab?
Is this the chatbot? Oh no, no, I'm seeing something here. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get a question, and then we have Visa. Over to you. So not sure if you get what Francisca means.
I think I do partially. Maybe, uh, are you trying to ask if designers can try to create a design system that can easily be used by devs and built by devs? Maybe you could just type in again for clarity.
Is Francisca on the call?
Or is she mentioned talking about handovers, maybe?
Oh, she's on the call. So Francisca, it's usually easier if you basically voice the question, so that everyone gets what you actually meant. Hello?
Is she able to speak?
Mm, not sure. Ah,
Okay.
well, if it to
So I think she's asking about creating something that creating a design system in a code format. There, I think it's good because I think there it's this is where I worked with that type of framework, and it was actually very very productive. But in the case of design, I think it's really about collaboration. And what tokens help you is to codify your uh, your items, right? So if you have a set of say 20 colors and you group them into their use, it's going to be easy for a dev to reference to those colors and create, because already the color value is there, and the the, the, I would say the class or the group or the name of that color is already there. So I think with the tokens, the devs can easily locate what item they need, and they put it in their CSS. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but I think with tokens, yeah, simply with tokens, it's very easy for someone to know all the colors they're gonna use, and eventually create CSS for those same colors.
I'm not sure if we did answer. I mean, she's going to be the one to confirm if we got it. Then there's a second one from Charlotte. So when designing at BK, at the BK, how do you prioritize which features users see first?
So I think I remember the when we started designing the app, we had a list of user types, what we call personas, and we had like different segments. So this is the persona. They are under this category. They have this age. They have this digital literacy, and mainly their user needs. And after knowing these personas, we also mapped out the services that the bank wants to show. And so you sort of like list or aggregate those services and see what is uh, is commonly or is appearing so many times, and that's what you maybe place on the homepage, and that's what creates actually the architecture of the app, right? So if you know, okay, I'm gonna need maybe the most users or 50 or 60% of these personas, it shows that maybe they need to send money, they need to lend money, they need to see. You create, the taxonomy. I don't know if that word exists. Yeah, of the website or of the app based on that. So you really need to aggregate the needs and the frequency of those things, and create that information architectural structure, the information, and rank the information based on that. So I think that's what we've used for that, and as well as the website, and as well as internet bank. So most digital products, that's the sort of formula we use.
Okay, not sure that answers your question, Charlotte. We'll drop us a message in the chat. And then you have another question from Philip. To what extent or at which stage is comms/brand/marketing involved throughout these processes?
Yeah, so normally comes marketing is involved at the product initiation to assess, of course, the fit, the market fit, to also assess the readiness of this thing. Like, is it something that is ready? Is it something you should start doing based, of course, on the insight that they have? Because they're the first people who hold maybe the market insight, and they understand better how the brand positions itself in the market. So they will typically come during the inception, that's very, very, very first part of product definition. So they are there to assess all of those things. So one of the deliverables would be one of the work they do is to check, the competitive analysis. Sometimes to check the needs. Sometimes to check the fit. What else do they do? I think mostly that's it. And then they come back again on the design at the design stage. So we highly collaborate with the marketing and the comms team on the design stage to refine the sometimes the experience or the flow, but mainly they hold like a writing experience that we find very handy when it comes to labeling our things, to naming the product, and all of that. And after that, we go to the we go to the sort of material preparation that is for the product that is about to go to the market. So here it's a bit, I would say, I don't know how to explain, but yeah, we already have like within the design team, we have people who are in charge of brand design. So these people, they come in and they work with the other set of designers, the UX designers, to understand the workflows and start preparing materials from there. So in a few words, they're at the inception part. They also come at the design part to look at the flow and start preparing the story on how they're going to sell the experience. They have to see the experience based on the user flow that they're seeing on the designs, and they also help us refine the UX copy. Yeah, I think pretty much that's it. And as well as, yeah, collecting feedback after the product has gone live.
Okay, so not sure. Yeah, Philip, give us a thumbs up if that answers your question. Yeah, again, so we had planned for an hour and a half, but then we had a lot of items to go through. We'll have to next ones. This last question, and then we'll make sure we get better with time in the next one. So the other one is from Biko. It says, can you share a little bit about your journey and share tips to improve your design skill?
A great. My journey is yeah. So I think it started maybe somewhere when I was finishing high school and studying university. So when I was in high school, I was studying computer science as my major, and I would say that maybe before that, I've had a background I had a lot of interest in artistic expression, if I would call it so. So anything related to creating, anything related to solving little things. So it has always been a hobby and a big high area of interest since I was very young. So going to computer science sort of I got exposed to design indirectly. So we were learning. We had a few courses, things like web design. So through web design, that's where I actually learned, the actual term of design. Because I remember in web design, we used to study things called web ergonomics, things like, good design should be like this. You should not. You shouldn't just design something to look good and look attractive, but it needs to be accessible. It needs to be usable. So all of these things sort of exposed me early to what design is and what design can do. And then later on, I started playing with web builders. At the time, I remember there was things like Dreamweaver and Adobe Flash, I remember, and a little bit of CSS and all of that. And so that led me into learning design softwares. And then when I graduated high school, when I was started university, it's something that I had already chosen to do. Yeah, so I got internships, then I got some part-time jobs, then I got jobs, and so throughout that whole journey of, of learning while doing, I think that's where I picked the most. So I think I worked, in different companies, private, public, and one thing that really helped me was to work with design teams. And I think it was one of the things that has really shaped my experience is to work with fellow designers to see really how people come up with solutions, how their thinking pattern, the way it's different from yours. So all of that sort of my if I would say, and yeah, yeah. And maybe one last thing, say how to improve your design skills. Uh, I think maybe one thing that I've came to realize with time is we often think design is within our it's just within our laptop, but there's a lot of design that happens outside our laptop, and I think that's where actually the biggest magic happens. Like to really work with other people, understand where they're coming from, uh, you know, being interested in people, being interested in subjects, observing the world. So all of that is really what makes up design. I don't know, maybe it might sound a bit abstract, but try really to learn how other things work, like around you. It isn't just about Figma and Photoshop and stuff. It's really about learning the systems around you, learning about architecture, learning about art, learning about all of these things that make up systems that we live in. It's sort of you know enhances or increases your design abilities, if I may say so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so let's take the last one. It's already 8, so that'll be 30 minutes after the initial um end time. Um, yeah. So this one says, as someone with experience in UI UX designing, do you believe that a passionate designer can start with theory, then practice later, or learn by doing?
I think learning by doing is the best. From my experience, you sort of have to fake it for quite some time, and as you fake it, you make it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's yeah. That thing. I mean, theory. I think you only get interested in the theoretical part as you practice. You cannot be interested in something you've never practiced. You need to practice, and as you practice, your eyes see things that you never saw before. And yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Last one, and then we'll close the QFAs. So this is from Dan. How do you decide which UI components to use in a design? When do you follow a design system, or create custom components?
So first components to decide. So to decide the components, I think it's I was gonna say it's easy, but it's not very easy though. It's like a common understanding that you establish with within a team, or if even when you don't know we're working with a team, is like a set of rules and guidelines that you have established for your design system, right? I've lost the question. Oh yeah, it came up. Yeah. So sets of rules and practices that you establish and guidelines that you establish of the design system. So when you have these rules, you always know, okay, for a maybe for a header, we have header, and this one I use it maybe when someone has not logged in, this one I use it when someone has logged in. So the more you use your product, the more you get to learn your product. The second is when do you follow the design system or create custom components. So in most cases, we follow the design system, but there are times when there's a new need. A new need really is maybe we are going into a customer segment that we've never gone into before, or maybe we are creating a new behavior, for example, that we've never created before. For example, today, maybe if we're talking about the Bank of Kigali app, it's really focusing on transaction and all of that banking stuff. But for example, in the future, we might want to go into educating. That is a new pattern and a new behavior that we're going to introduce to the app. So we might want to create a new set of components. So it's only created when there's a new pattern or a new behavior that your business is sort of trying to explore.
Okay. Hope we did. Um, yeah, we did capture the questions that were pulled. I think we did. Yeah, we didn't see any comment saying it wasn't enough context, so that's good. So yeah, first of all, so sorry, we're sort of late in the time that we have planned, but as well, I mean, the questions that we had, the answers given by Ines, I do believe that provided um, valuable insights to everyone on this first event. Uh, Everyone is going to receive a link to share feedback um, in their inbox after the event ends, or if it's not there yet, please. As you all know, this was the first event. Obviously, there's things we'll have to improve on, things like time or like how long the demo is going to be and all that. There's a first time for everything. Uh, Before we log off, I just wanted to ask everyone uh, to simply post a thumbs up if you got value from this first event, from what Ines was going through. Did it help you in let's say what you basically do on a day to day? Did it give you additional insights, or if you new to design, new to Figma, do you do you feel like you got value from this session? That will be valuable for us to make sure that we know uh, how we shape the upcoming content. Okay, I see three people who have 21. It will be nice to get a reaction from you guys. Yeah, more people to go. 10 plus people to go. Okay. Yeah, keep them coming. Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone who first of all did show up to our very first event. And thank you so much, Ines, for this insightful presentation that basically shows how you come from PRDs all the way to creating designs, while leveraging design systems. Um, in the time that we had, we didn't get to the dev handoff side. But yeah, that's actually something we plan to do in the next event or so. We're going to be able to deep dive in how everything that, for example, anything that all the things that Ines built, how would that be uh, shared with the dev, and then we plan in other upcoming events uh, to look at the different aspects of product development. So yeah, this was the first. I would say this was good for a first event. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Ines. Looking forward to uh, upcoming uh, Friends of Figma events. Kigali. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful
Thank you,
weekend.
everyone. Bye.